The Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Welcome to a holly jolly episode of The Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And we're going to be talking about some of the movies we saw this week, in addition to playing a little holiday game show later on. And to celebrate, because Christmas is almost upon us, me and Andrew have both seen holiday-themed movies. So we'll be talking about some of those now. And the movie I saw, which was surprisingly good, was A Violent Night. So, an elite team of mercenaries breaks into a family compound on Christmas Eve, taking everyone inside hostage. However, they aren't prepared for a surprise combatant. Santa Claus is on the grounds, and he's about to show why this Nick is no saint. So when I read this synopsis initially, I thought it was going to be horrible. I thought this was going to be, it's like a cash grab movie, you know? It's like the holidays, we're going to release a stupid, like, Die Hard movie with Santa Claus as the main protagonist. He's going to go around killing people. And I thought it was going to be dumb, so I went out and saw it, thinking that in mind. Very low standards. I was very surprised by how actually competent the movie was. I'm not going to say it was amazing. It wasn't. I definitely have issues with this movie. But for what it is, which is essentially Santa Claus Die Hard, it actually delivers on a pretty good experience. I'll start off with the bad, and most of it really has to do with the characters, because besides Saint Nick, a lot of them are very flat or one note. Some examples are, for instance, there's a grandmother character. So everyone's essentially at her house in this essentially compound because she's filthy rich and they're all trying to appeal to her to get in her good graces, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So she's essentially playing this stone cold businesswoman who's got a lot of money that come from very sketchy origins. There's, again, not much more to her character besides that. She's just kind of like this stone cold woman. And that's how they play around with it a little bit, but that's all she really is. The husband, who is essentially one of our protagonists, essentially, he's this kind of guy who's done with being like in the rat races of this very competitive rich family, and he wants to reunite with his ex and daughter and kind of get back to them and, you know, have the life he actually wants to live. Similar thing with his wife. She divorced her husband because of his job. He's always, you know, in the family rat races, and she doesn't like being a part of that, but is still able to have this like amicable relationship with him and co-parent their daughter extremely well. Their daughter's kind of like this kid who still believes in Santa Claus and has this innocence to her and becomes like almost instrumental for Santa later on, is like, hey, I need to stay in this house in order to save this kid, because she still believes. Like, that's her whole thing. And from the characters I just said, the husband and wife were definitely the best out of the whole cast, besides Saint Nick, because they actually had some motivation going behind them. But once you get past that, the characters are essentially greedy aunt, whose main character trait is that she wants all her mother's money. Dumb actor husband, who's essentially trying to pitch his movie the entire time he's there. Their greedy son. There's the head mercenary who hates Christmas, and he's trying to steal all this money from grandma. It's a lot of that. And even with the husband and wife, their acting isn't great. They don't really, like, there's not much of a world outside of what's happening on this one night. At least I didn't really get that watching this. So overall, again, they were kind of there to serve the plot and serve as a device for either Santa Claus to come and save or to be an antagonist to Santa Claus, which isn't terrible, but it's not going to make for an interesting rewatch. Like, once you've seen the movie, you get the gist of it. Additionally, the movie starts to kind of lose itself towards the end. I'll talk about the fights, but they were actually shockingly grounded for what this is. And I really like that, but the movie kind of starts losing that towards the end. It gets it back a little bit, but it kind of loses the fun I was having with it. And it gets a little too whimsical, and just, it wasn't as fun as when it started out doing this. And we also get a lot of like this trope I really hate, and I tried looking up the specific kind, but it's essentially what I found from, like, what is it called? I can't even remember the website. It's the Training of the Peaceful Villagers one, where it's like the people of the town are fighting back to take their home and all that kind of stuff. Hate that trope, and that comes up towards the end when the family essentially revolts against these mercenaries and tries to take their whole, you know, place back. So a lot of what I don't like is essentially that the characters outside of Santa Claus just really aren't that interesting, and there's not much to them besides that. The plot's also a little convoluted, but I don't think it's worth getting into here, because I think the movie makes up for it with everything else it does right. And to start off, I think one of the best things it does is the mostly grounded fights. The first one in particular, with Santa Claus fighting the first mercenary he comes across, is absolutely fantastic because it looks like it's done in one shot. And it's not like those fights where it's like it's all really up close in your face. You can't really see the action. You can see everything that's happening. You get the whole breadth of the room. And what's really awesome is that they use everything in the room kind of to their advantage. Some examples of this. Like, for instance, Santa Claus will take like Christmas lights off a tree and start choking someone. Or like there's a big window nearby and Santa pushes them out the window and somebody falls on some ornaments outside and like stabs themselves. Or a Christmas tree star on top being used as like a ball and chain, like a mace, essentially whipping it around like an ornament. It's really cool. Like, it's really cool how they use all these elements that are put in the scene and incorporate them into these really fun fights. Because you don't expect this also going into this. Because Santa's like, he's kind of, I'll get into it more in a bit. He's kind of this schlub. He hates what the Christmas has become. He's just tired and he doesn't want to do this anymore. And we get the impression that if this Christmas doesn't go well for him, he's just going to stop doing it because he doesn't want to do this anymore. And you get this from this character in this first fight where he's like, I don't really want to fight you, dude. Listen, you don't want this. Like, trust me, I can take you out. And there's this moment where he switches and he's like, all right, I'm going to bring it on now. And he actually starts fighting and it's really fucking cool. And yeah, I do think the movie loses its kind of grounding towards the end, which I missed because I thought it was really cool in the first few fights where this comes out. But overall, I don't think that detracts from how cool this actually was. And I'm saying that as a man who's talking about a movie where Santa Claus is fighting mercenaries. Additionally, David Harbour as Santa Claus delivers a great performance. And I think a lot of that comes from they don't really explain a ton about his character, but they give him enough to work with so that way, you know, you can get something good out of it. So he starts off, like I said, as this crotchety old man who's done with Christmas because he thinks people have become too greedy and they've forgotten like what the holidays are about. And so it's a fun starting point because we have this disillusioned Santa Claus who just like, he doesn't really want to keep doing this anymore. He doesn't get it, but he's still doing it because there's something inside of him that wants to like, you know, keep this going. And I also love that he avoids conflict initially. Like, he's not this badass hero. He's just some dude delivering gifts. Because he's kind of forgotten his roots in a way, almost. Because when we find out a bit about his backstory, it's almost like he's this reformed criminal of sorts. Where he had this kind of dark past, but then he found some stuff and got onto a path to where he is today and becoming a better person. But in doing so, he's kind of lost himself a little bit. And this serves as a way to get him back to who he was. And we see this development happen when he gets trapped in the house, because he's delivering gifts to these people as the mercenaries show up to take over the compound, and his sleigh ends up going away. The reindeer gets scared off, and he's trapped there with all of them. And he takes, he finally starts taking himself back. He becomes a fighter. He starts getting in all these fights with all these people. He finds out that there's actually this little girl, who I was talking about earlier, the husband and wife's daughter, who's been taken hostage along with all of them, and he's worried that she's gonna die. And this almost gives him like a reason to stay, because initially it seems like he's just gonna run away, because he has no skin in the game at this point. There's no reason why he should stay, but there's still some part of him that still believes in people like her, and he knows he can't just leave her behind like that. That's just not something he can do. So I love that as a character. Love that as a concept. Like, he's this guy who just, again, he's done with the holidays, but he knows that there's some part of him that's still really good, and he can't just leave like this behind. I also love that as a concept, he's not over-explained. Like, we don't get a ton about his backstory. You get just enough to understand that he's this reformed criminal type character. And it's not really needed to understand a lot much more than that. The same thing goes with like his Christmas magic, essentially. We find out he has a couple tricks. Like, for instance, he has this like scroll that can essentially is like the naughty and nice list. Or like he can do a gesture and he'll go up a chimney or something like that with like magic. But he doesn't even know how he works. He admits it as much. He just knows it works because it's Christmas magic. And there's not much more explanation needed than that. And honestly, it's kind of refreshing. Because I feel like we're in an age where everyone wants to try to explain things too much, and get like way too in depth into lore and all that stuff. But not everything needs to have like a 10-page explanation / expanded universe. Sometimes stuff just works and that's that. And I think this is a case where it works really well in himself. Also, as in regards to Santa as a concept, it's also very funny that a lot of the other characters, especially the mercenaries, when they stumble across him, just cannot believe that he's Santa Claus. Because think about it, because they're living in like a world where there's no fucking way there's a Santa. That's not a thing that exists. So it's funny watching them stumble across it, and they're just trying to make sense of what all this magic around him is. So overall, as a take on like Die Hard, it's very enjoyable. I don't think you'll have a bad time watching this, but really don't go in expecting anything deeper than Santa Claus is fighting mercenaries, because it's not really that. But again, for what it is, it's very fun.
That's interesting. I was looking to see that that movie too. I just hadn't got around to doing it, and I'll probably just watch it when it comes out on demand.
Yeah.
I saw, going with the Christmas theme, from our favorite sponsor, non-sponsor, Disney Plus, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which follows along the same lines as the Werewolf by Night special, which we reviewed during the Halloween season. This one obviously is Christmas themed because of it's named the Holiday Special, but it actually, unlike Werewolf by Night, which doesn't really have any connection to any other Marvel property yet, this one does, and this one you kind of have to watch before you go see the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which will be out in May, because it drops a big kind of story element into it that may come up later, and I'm not going to spoil it just because if you've seen it, you know what it is. This movie, why am I on weird? Okay. So Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket, Mantis, and Groot engage in some spirited shenanigans in an all-new original special created for Disney Plus, is pretty much the description for this. This is really good. It was better than the Werewolf by Night. Werewolf by Night was a little bit more serious, whereas this one was a little bit more comedic just because of the characters that are in it. Essentially, we find out that Peter hasn't really celebrated Christmas, or Star-Lord hasn't really celebrated Christmas since he was back on Earth, since he was taken and kidnapped by the Ravagers. And so Drax and Mantis have made it their goal to get something really nice for Peter this holiday. And instead of something, they decide they're going to get someone special, and they have a plan to go kidnap Kevin Bacon, who is actually in the in the special. And it's really funny, just because they don't understand that this is not a thing that they should be doing, and that they're aliens visiting Earth trying to kidnap an Earthling. But it was really good. There's like an opening, during the opening credits, there's a song that's sung about basically a band has created a Christmas song, and the way they got their information was from what you would play telephone. Like, so they heard something from someone else who told someone else who told someone else. And this Christmas song that they create is pretty much, it starts off nice and then it goes completely off the rails. They think that Santa Claus is a monster with actual claws, just because that's, they're thinking the more literal sense. It's a really good, like, holiday. It gets you kind of into the spirit kind of thing, where it's also set into this Marvel universe. And there's one other thing that happens at the end, that if you hadn't seen the other previous Marvel stuff, you wouldn't really understand the joke. But I thought that was really clever and well done, and I want to see like the backstory of how that happened. But other than that, it was good. Kevin Bacon does really well in. I don't know if he's going to show up later in the Marvel universe. We'll see. because he's not really it's Kevin Bacon as Kevin Bacon. It's as himself, so he's not really playing a character in the special. But he does say at the end, he's like, hey, I'll see y'all around Easter. So it's like, are they gonna do a Guardians of the Galaxy Easter special, or is that just a play because it comes out right at the beginning of May and that's around Easter? So they could be kind of like throwing little hints like that at us, because I think the trailer came out right after this came out. The trailer for Guardians 3 came out like right after this. So pretty good if you want to watch something new and, you know, free to watch if you have a Disney Plus subscription, and you like Marvel, go ahead and watch it. It's only about 35 minutes long. It's not very long at all. So, but the one thing that really bugged me is Groot has become more of an adult rather than like a teenager. He's more of like a young adult now, and he looks like a Ninja Turtle. And it's like really like when you look at Groot in the first movie, he's like really tall and like slender and lanky, and then he's been baby and teenage Groot in the more recent movies. Now he's like big swole buff Groot, and it's like really off-putting, like really weird seeing him. And the first thing I thought was like, they made Groot a Ninja Turtle. Like, he looks like a Ninja Turtle. It's crazy. But yeah, so I always like watching the Marvel stuff. And yeah, so watch this. Go ahead.
I'm curious because you did mention that there's something that might be what's it called? Might come into the future, might play into the future where Marvel's going. Is this like a big thing, or is this like something small that it's not like a huge deal?
It's not like a huge deal. It's just something that, like, if you hadn't seen the previous Guardians of the Galaxy movies, you might not really understand how this is going to play out or how this plays out.
Okay.
And then if you want to continue to watch the Guardians of the Galaxy movies or any of the Marvel movies, you should watch this special, because this thing could be prevalent in the future. It might not have a huge impact on the future of this quirky group, but it could. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think this might be the last go round. Guardians 3 might be the last go round for the Guardians team. They might be wrapping up their story, just kind of like how the original Avengers, you know, Iron Man, Black Widow, Captain America, Hulk, and Hawkeye have kind of wrapped up their stories, and they're not really going to be as prevalent anymore. They're going to bring in the new characters. Guardians of the Galaxy have been around since 2014, and they've got this will be their third movie, and they've got a special. So and they were in the Avengers movies, the last two. So but, you know, we could see them in the next two Avengers movies, which are 2025 and 2026, I think. So,
who knows?
But the next Guardians movie, which is May, you're definitely going to want to watch the special beforehand, because you never know. It may come up in the third movie, and you're going to be like, wait, when did they say that? And you're going to be like, well, if you watch the special, you'd have known. So
if you're a big fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, make sure you check this out so you don't miss anything. Okay, well, it's oh my god, these little experiments into like almost short television long specials they always seem like they turn out really good.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're gonna do like a lot of the big holidays, like if they're actually gonna do something for Easter, or next year maybe they'll do something for like Thanksgiving, or if they're just going to keep it centered around Halloween and Christmas, because then, like, what else would they do? Would they do
Arbor Day special?
Or like the 4th of July, or
an actual holiday,
a Captain America 4th of July special, like they could do a Groot Arbor Day special. I don't know. he's a tree, talking tree. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but they seem like interesting holdovers from the movie because you can only have so many of those movies coming out per year. You can't
Yeah.
pump out a crazy amount of them. So it seems like a good in between for when
They
there's a dry spell.
they do about 3 to 4 movies a year,
Yeah.
sometimes maybe 2. But
Yeah.
they have the shows now, so they have like the little
Yeah.
mini series shows, and this special kind of, so you had She-Hulk, and then you had Black Panther, and then you have this special, and then next couple of months you have the Ant-Man movie coming out. So I mean, they're kind of having like one thing there's gonna be like, it feels like there's one Marvel thing coming every month. Every month there's at least something that's coming out that's new in the Marvel universe. Which is what it's felt like for like the last year. So,
Yeah, well, more stuff to look forward to in the future, certainly. And especially around this time of year with all the holiday stuff coming out. And in that vein, let's move on to our holiday-themed edition of Pilot Wings. So, sticking with the season, Pilot Wings this time around is a game show where I'm having Andrew review three movie three movie synopsises, actually. 2 of them are real Hallmark movies that got made, and one of them is something that I made up, and it's up to Andrew to suss out which is the fake Hallmark movie. We had fun last time. I think last time's ended up pretty good. This time I'm not as confident in myself, but maybe I can trip you up. So we'll see.
Everything sounds like a Hallmark movie. Or a Lifetime movie.
Yes. Well, and on that note, let's get started. So, number 1. Bob Wallace makes sure to go out every year on Christmas decorations so that he can have the brightest and most festive house in his neighborhood. This year, he notices that his new neighbor has put up an even brighter and more lavish display. The fight is on when they declare war for the best Christmas decoration display in the neighborhood. 2. Fresh out of college, Sarah was excited to explore her potential outside of her small town. However, when her parents fall ill, she's forced to return home to take care of the family business, a Christmas tree store called the Sentimental Spruce. While it may not be the path she wanted to walk, a charismatic coworker named Chris will show her that sometimes it's life's side paths that make it worthwhile. 3. Leading up to Christmas, Lauren is visited by the ghosts of 3 ex-boyfriends. She must learn to open her heart or risk losing her best friend, Nate. So, Andrew, out of those three movies, which one sounds like the fake one?
All right. You have tripped me up a little bit on a few things. All 3 of them sound fake. 1, it's a Hallmark movie. Men are typically not the protagonists of Hallmark movies. Maybe I'm thinking Lifetime movies. But this first one, about a guy who wants to have the most festive lights in the neighborhood and goes up against his neighbor, that was like a subplot of the movie The Grinch, with the 2 neighbors having, arguments about the lights. And it's also male protagonist led, not to be whatever. It's not sexist, but like whatever. The second one is definitely a movie, but you might be tricking me up because there's some spelling mistakes in there. I can see them. You said Chris, coworker named Chris, will show her that life sometimes it's life's side paths that make it worthwhile. It's should have apostrophe. I think life's should have an apostrophe. And I don't know why side paths is underlined there, but that's kind of throwing me for a loop. Because typically these synopsises don't have spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes. And the last one, leading up to Christmas, Lauren is visited by ghosts. Isn't that like the synopsis of the movie Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, where a guy is visited by the ghosts of his girlfriends of her like that one's kind of throwing me off too. They're all throwing me off. So man, I really thought the second one was real because it's so, but like reading it back again, it's so typical Hallmark, Lifetime, and there's so much information. I'm gonna go with the second one. I know it's probably tripping me up, but it feels like there's too much information in the synopsis, and yeah, it's like it's too generic. It's too generically Lifetime Hallmark. So that
okay. Number 2?
Yeah.
Number 2 is the fake one.
Oh,
Gosh darn it.
It's
man, I didn't do spell check this time. I should have done that.
Yeah, you had some spelling errors there too.
Forgot to.
Yeah,
I
so
looked up side paths, and that's how it's supposed to be spelled, apparently.
Space side paths.
No, but I looked up specifically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how it kept coming up, at least. But
yeah, because if you leave it there, it has a grammar mistake. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't see that on my end for some reason. They don't show up.
It has like a little blue line under it. But yeah, it's in Life should have apostrophes too.
Yes.
So it was a little
Also
tripping
fair.
me up. But that one, it was just too generically Hallmark
You're not
lifestyle.
wrong.
So much information in the synopsis. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, I should pick some of the wordier ones. But yeah, the first one's called Battle of the Bulbs.
Oh, God.
And the third one is called Boyfriends of Christmas Past.
It's the same movie, just during Christmas and like the opposite gender roles.
Yep.
It's the same movie.
You gotta understand. There's like 388 of these movies. Not all of them are gonna be particularly creative. Most of them are very bad. Like the ones I showed a couple weeks ago, like when they had to those 2 FBI agents had to save Christmas. Oh man, yeah, there's some stinkers on the list. So maybe I don't know. I got one more week. Maybe I'll get you at the end of the month.
It's just so weird though, because it's the same title, just added Christmas and changed girlfriend to boyfriend.
Yeah, there's some weird ones on that list. I don't even think we got to the one about dinosaurs.
It's just Christmas Past. Is it Ghost of Christmas Past or Ghost of
Boyfriends Past? I think.
I thought
is it boyfriend? It's Boyfriends of Christmas Past.
Oh, Boyfriends of Christmas Past. Yeah, that's just replacing. Oh, that came out this year.
I didn't even.
Jesus. It came out this year.
I should also mention how I'm picking these movies out is I'm usually picking them by the worst rated ones on this list.
It's got a 6.1 out of 10, man.
Generally, I'm also scrolling through a bit. It's not all at the bottom of the barrel, but yeah, most of them are not very highly rated. So yeah, that was Pilot Wings for this week. I got one more week. Maybe I'll get Andrew then.
I type in Battle of the, and I get Battle of the Bulge, obviously.
Battle of the Bulge?
Yeah. Battle of the Bulbs. Jesus. What was this one rated? 5.4? Yeah, that makes more sense.
They're bottom of the barrel. Not great.
I mean, is any Hallmark Lifetime
apparently
movie
there's a
rated
couple that have got
9?
8 at least. Yeah.
Really?
There's one or two I think that has it. Where's the one? It's when calls the heart. An intriguing peddler comes to Hope Valley, selling townspeople his wares and teaching them valuable lessons about joy and giving. There's one or two.
7.9. That's crazy.
I have it on 8.5 on IMDb, but
I'm on IMDb too.
I don't know. But regardless, there's a few that get up there, but most of them are bad. The majority are bad. So yeah, one more week. Hopefully I'll get Andrew that time, and I won't leave any spelling mistakes in that will tip him on to me putting him in there.
You really gotta check it, man.
I really gotta check it. I didn't even notice. But yeah, on that note, why don't we go into some of the movies that are coming out in the coming weeks? And
Puss in Boots.
Yeah, Puss in Boots what is that even about? I've seen the show up once or twice, but
it's Puss in Boots discovers that his passion for adventure has taken its toll. He's burned through 8 of his 9 lives. Puss sets out on an epic journey to find the mythical last wish and restore his 9 lives. So It's also a different animation style than the Shrek.
I noticed it, and I kind of like it.
Yeah, when you watch the trailer, it feels a cross between Shrek and Into the Spider-Verse. It's kind of got that like comic booky style.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
There's something to it that's different.
Yeah, there's something different.
It looks like a good mix of 2D and 3D, but regardless, I dig it. It looks very cool. I don't know how much I'd care about the movie itself, but it sounds like you're interested at least. Something to check out.
No. I'm going to see Avatar this week.
I'll probably see that as well.
I haven't seen it yet. I don't know why I haven't seen it yet. I think I was looking for someone to go see it with, but I just haven't yet. But
probably because it seems like it'll be the same movie all over again.
It's 3 hours and 12 minutes.
It's so long.
It's 30 minutes longer than the original movie, and the original movie was long.
Yeah, it's a long movie.
Like when you watch the original movie back, I watched the original movie this weekend because I haven't seen it in a while. And when you watch it back at home, it doesn't feel that long. But then but I remember when I went to the theater and watched it in the theater, I was like, oh my God, how long is this movie?
Well, to be fair, that was also 2008. We hadn't really gotten into the era of like Marvel movies. Because a lot of Marvel movies nowadays are actually decently long, right? They're like 2+ hours long.
Endgame was almost 3 hours, and I think Black Panther was a little bit longer than Endgame, but it was still only like 2 hours and 40 minutes, 2 hours and 50 minutes. Yeah. But like, even like, but that like, I don't know, Marvel, Endgame and even Black Panther, they kept you engaged the whole time. Whereas like, I felt like with Avatar, Avatar is just Pocahontas with blue people. Let's just get that out of the way right there. Yeah. So like, there's points in Avatar where I'm like, oh my God, can we move along? Can we move along here? I understand they're falling in love. I understand that we don't have to watch every single thing and scene of them falling in love with each other. Yeah. But I don't know. It was revolutionary at the time.
Well, specifically revolutionary because of its CG. Like that at the time was astounding.
Because it's IMAX.
It's a special effects, like, what's it called? It's a special effects showcase, essentially, to show like what you can do in the medium.
And apparently this one, it matches up with it.
As in, like, it's just as good quality wise, or
it's just as good quality, and the story is good. It's got a better rating than the original.
Interesting.
So I'm interested to see it. I also like, I love the ocean. I'm terrified of the open ocean, and like being stranded out in the open ocean. But I love the ocean. I love sea creatures and stuff like that. Like when I was younger, I wanted to be a marine biologist. But like, so like seeing them in the water and different creatures and everything of Pandora is interesting. So
I'm also interested in seeing it, but that's mainly because I'm just so confused as to how it's supposed to be different from the original, because everything I've seen of it looks like it's following essentially the same kind of storyline. So I want to know, or I really do want to know if it's trying to do something new or if it's just retreading the same exact path all over again.
I'm also saying that I'm also interested in seeing how the other ones are going to be different.
Yeah, I could not tell you that.
There's 3 more, and if it's just humans trying to obtain the unobtainium metal, and it's just that story the entire time, that's just gonna get old.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm with you. I want to see how it's going to be different.
Yeah, I will give him credit. It's a James Cameron movie, so he makes good stuff. So it will probably be enjoyable at the very least. But I'm curious how far. Yeah, I'm very curious how far he can push this kind of stuff. How much more Avatar? How much more world is there to Avatar that we have yet to explore?
There's one movie every year for the next 3 more years. So
we'll see.
Buckle up.
The other movie that I'm interested in that's also incredibly long is the new Damien Chazelle movie, Babylon. Which I've started seeing some trailers for, which look pretty cool. Tale of an outsized ambition and outrageous excess. It traces the rise and fall of multiple characters during an unbridled decadence and depravity in early Hollywood. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's Damien Chazelle. He's pretty much won me over with his movies at this point, so I trust him to make something that I will be interested in.
You know what that movie reminds me a lot of? And I don't know if it's because it's Brad Pitt, but it reminds me of what was that movie that had Leonardo DiCaprio in it, and it was like based around like old school Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of that for some reason, because it's like old school Hollywood kind of thing. I think maybe.
Yeah, that's pretty much where it's going.
But yeah, I'm interested. I'd be interested. I probably won't see it, opening weekend.
Yeah.
But it looks interesting.
Yeah, I will say before we wrap up, there is one more thing I want to talk about specifically, and it's Andrew. Have you seen the Barbie movie teaser?
No.
Oh my god,
look that up.
It's amazing. Me and my girlfriend have been talking about this because she introduced me to the fact that the Barbie movie was getting made. And I thought, this sounds so stupid. Why are you making a Barbie movie? And then I found out, I think it's Greta Gerwig, the woman who did Lady Bird and Small Women, is directing it. And then I saw the teaser for it, and I have complete faith in her now. This movie looks amazing.
I'll have to check it out.
Yes, I'm looking forward to more of that. And when more trailers come out, I will talk about them because I was kind of blown away. I guess just a little spoiler. It is essentially a parody of 2001: A Space Odyssey, the teaser, which is so funny. Nice. But I think we'll move into our outro now. We'll talk about it more in future episodes when more stuff comes out for it. Mm-hmm. But on that note, Andrew, do you have anything you want to plug?
Nope.
I'm going to quickly plug Jimmy's movie. I just saw it this weekend. It's fantastic. Hopefully we'll get a release sometime in the next few months. But on that note, I don't have anything else to plug. So I just want to thank you all for listening to the Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And we will see you all around. Thank you for watching.